She didn't know this pain would be the last warning. The house was still, a soft hum of silence wrapping around her like a shawl. The late afternoon sun spilled through the kitchen window, painting the countertops in honeyed gold. A half-empty mug of tea sat forgotten, its steam long gone, a faint ring of chamomile staining the ceramic. She stood there, one hand resting on the curve of her belly, the other tracing the edge of the counter, as if anchoring herself to the world. Her breath was slow, a rhythm she'd grown used to in these final weeks, heavy with the weight of waiting. The clock on the wall ticked, each second a quiet pulse, like a heartbeat too soft to hear. She was alone. Her husband was at work, the kind of day that stretched long into the evening. Friends were a phone call away, but the house felt like a cocoon, woven from her own thoughts, her own dreams. She'd spent months imagining her child, those tiny fingers, that first cry, the way her heart would crack open when she finally held them. Her belly was a universe, vast and warm, a tide of life swelling within her. She moved through the house, her steps slow, deliberate, as if not to disturb the delicate balance of this moment. The nursery waited upstairs, half finished, a crib glowing in the corner like a promise. She paused at the doorway, her shadow stretching across the floor, long and quiet. A mobile hung above the crib, tiny stars dangling in the air, spinning in a breeze she couldn't feel. She wondered what it would be like to hear her baby's cry. Would it be sharp, like a bird breaking free? Or soft, like a sigh against her skin? She closed her eyes, letting the thought linger, a flicker of light in the vastness of her mind. The house creaked, as if whispering back. Her hand rested on her belly again, feeling the gentle stir of life beneath her skin. It was a dance, one she'd grown to love. The kicks, the rolls, the quiet moments when her baby seemed to listen to the world outside. She smiled, a soft curve of her lips, and whispered a silent promise. Soon, little one, soon. But the quiet was heavy today, thicker than usual. The air felt like it was holding its breath. She moved to the living room, sinking into the couch, her body sinking into the cushions like a stone settling into a riverbed. The sunlight shifted, casting long shadows across the floor, like fingers reaching for something just out of grasp. She was tired, not the kind of tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that settled into her bones, a weight that came with carrying a life so close to her own. She closed her eyes, letting the world blur at the edges. The ticking clock faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of her own breath, in and out, like waves lapping at a shore. In that moment, she was both fragile and unbreakable, a vessel of hope and fear woven together. She didn't know the world was about to shift. She didn't know the quiet was a prelude, a hush before the storm. Her phone sat on the coffee table, its screen dark, a silent sentinel. It was just another object in the room, no different from the mug or the clock. But it was waiting too, waiting for her to reach for it, waiting to become something more. She opened her eyes, her gaze settling on the phone. A flicker of curiosity stirred in her chest, like a moth brushing against a flame. She didn't know why she reached for it. Not yet. But her fingers moved, drawn by something deeper than thought, something primal, something that whispered, "Listen." The room was still. The sunlight dimmed, as if the world itself was pausing, watching, waiting. Her heartbeat was a distant drum, steady but growing louder, like thunder rolling closer. She didn't know it yet, but the quiet was about to break. The pain came like a whisper, soft but insistent, a ripple across the ocean of her body. She was still on the couch, her phone resting in her lap, its screen glowing faintly now, a small beacon in the dimming light. The pain wasn't sharp. Not yet. It was a tightening, a tide pulling inward, as if her body were trying to hold something close. She shifted, adjusting her weight, thinking it was just another ache, another moment in the long symphony of pregnancy. But this was different. It came again, a little stronger, like a hand pressing gently against her core. She frowned, her breath catching, a tiny hitch in the rhythm she'd grown so used to. Her hand moved to her belly, instinctive, protective, as if she could shield the life within from whatever this was. The room felt smaller now, the walls closer, the air thicker. The clock ticked on, indifferent, its steady rhythm a contrast to the uneven pulse of her thoughts. She waited, her body still, her mind racing. Was this normal? Was this what they'd warned her about? Those vague words in parenting books about listening to your body? She didn't know. She'd never done this before. The weight of her inexperience pressed against her chest, heavy as the life she carried. The pain ebbed, then returned, a slow wave building beneath her skin. It wasn't unbearable, but it was strange, unfamiliar, like a language her body was trying to speak. She closed her eyes, willing it to pass, willing it to be nothing. But the room was too quiet, the silence too loud, amplifying every sensation, every doubt. She stood, her movements slow, deliberate, as if moving too quickly might shatter something fragile. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, a low groan that echoed in her chest. She walked to the kitchen, her hand trailing along the counter, grounding herself in the familiar, the chipped edge of the sink, the faint smell of dish soap, the flicker of the overhead light. Another wave came, stronger this time, like a tide pulling harder at the shore. She gripped the counter, her knuckles whitening, her breath shallow. The world tilted just for a moment, like a painting slipping from its frame. She exhaled, forcing herself to stay calm, to think. Her phone was still in her hand, its weight a quiet comfort. She glanced at it, the screen dark again, reflecting her own face back at her. Pale, uncertain, a flicker of fear in her eyes. She didn't want to call anyone, not yet. Not her husband, who was too far away to help. Not her mother, who would worry. Not a friend, who might not understand. She was alone, but not entirely. The pain came again, sharper now, like a chord struck too hard. Her breath caught, and she leaned against the counter, her body curling inward, protective. The kitchen was a blur of light and shadow, the world narrowing to the space between her and the life she carried. She didn't know what to do, but she knew she couldn't ignore this. Not anymore. Her thumb brushed the phone's screen, waking it to life. The glow was soft, almost tender, like a candle flickering in the dark. She didn't know why she opened it, not really. It was instinct, a pull she couldn't name. Her fingers moved, tapping the screen, searching for something, someone, to listen. The room was still, but the air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Her heartbeat was louder now, a steady drum against the silence, a rhythm that matched the life stirring within her. She didn't know it yet, but she was reaching for a lifeline, a thread of connection in a world that felt too vast, too uncertain. The pain came again, and this time, she listened. The screen glowed like a window to another world, small and bright in her trembling hands. She sat at the kitchen table now, the chair creaking beneath her weight, the wood cool against her skin. The pain hadn't stopped, each wave a little stronger, a little more urgent, like a tide refusing to be ignored. Her breath was uneven, a fragile thread tying her to the moment. She didn't want to panic, not yet. Panic was a weight she couldn't carry, not with her baby so close, so fragile. Her fingers moved across the phone, hesitant at first, then faster, as if guided by something deeper than thought. She opened an app, a familiar one, its icon a quiet presence in her life. She'd used it before, to ask about recipes, to settle silly bets, to untangle the knots of her curiosity. But this was different. This was a plea, a whisper into the void. The screen blinked, waiting. She typed, her words simple, raw like a prayer sent into the night. I'm pregnant. I feel pain. It's different. What should I do? The cursor pulsed, a tiny heartbeat of light, and then the response came, swift and calm, like a hand reaching through the dark. The words were gentle, not cold, not mechanical, but steady, like a friend sitting across the table. Tell me more. Where is the pain? How strong is it? She paused, her breath catching. The pain came again, a tightening tide, pulling at her core. She typed again, her fingers trembling, describing the sensation, the way it moved, the way it lingered, the way it felt like a warning she couldn't ignore. The kitchen was silent, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator, a low drone that seemed to echo her unease. The screen glowed brighter, as if sensing her need. Another question appeared, soft but precise. Is it constant, or does it come and go? She answered, her words spilling out now, a confession to this invisible presence. The pain was coming faster, stronger, a rhythm she couldn't outrun. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the air thick with the weight of her fear. But the phone was a lifeline, a tether to something, someone that listened. The questions kept coming, each one a thread pulling her closer to clarity. Have you felt your baby move? Is there anything else unusual? She pressed her hand to her belly, waiting, pleading for that familiar kick, that reassurance of life. It came, faint but there, a flutter like a bird brushing against a cage. She typed it out, her fingers shaking, her heart racing. The response was immediate, a steady pulse of words. That's good. But the pain? How often now? Time blurred. The pain was a tide now, relentless, each wave crashing harder than the last. She answered, her words a lifeline thrown into the unknown. The screen glowed, unwavering, its light a constant in the chaos of her thoughts. And then, the questions stopped. The silence was deafening. The cursor blinked, and then the words appeared, stark and urgent, like a flare in the dark. Go to the hospital. Now. Her breath stopped. The world tilted, the kitchen fading into a blur of light and shadow. The words burned into her, not cold, not mechanical, but alive with a weight she couldn't ignore. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding, a drumbeat echoing in her chest. The phone was warm in her hand, a small sun in the gathering storm. She didn't know why she trusted it. Not fully. But it wasn't just a machine. It was a presence. A voice that had listened, that had asked, that had seen her fear and answered with clarity. The pain came again, sharp and unyielding, a call she couldn't refuse. She stood, her legs unsteady, her hand clutching the phone like a talisman. The kitchen was a blur now, the clock ticking faster, the light flickering like a heartbeat. She moved to the door, her steps heavy, her body a vessel carrying 2 lives. The world was shifting, and she was moving with it. The car keys jangled in her hand, a sharp metallic cry against the silence. The pain was a storm now, rolling through her body, each wave crashing harder, faster, leaving no room for doubt. She stumbled to the door, her phone still clutched in one hand, its screen glowing like a lantern guiding her through the dark. The words burned in her mind. Go to the hospital. Now she didn't question it. Not anymore. The presence on the other side of the screen had seen her, heard her, and its urgency was a lifeline she couldn't ignore. The front door creaked open, the evening air cool against her skin, a sharp contrast to the heat building inside her. The world outside was quiet, the street empty, the sky bruised with the last light of day. She slid into the car, her movements clumsy, her belly a weight that anchored her to the seat. The pain came again, a tide pulling her under, and she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, her breath shallow. The phone sat in the passenger seat, its screen still glowing, a silent companion. The engine roared to life, a low growl that matched the urgency in her chest. The road stretched out before her, a ribbon of asphalt leading to the unknown. The pain was relentless now, a rhythm that drowned out everything else. The hum of the car, the fading light, the ticking clock she'd left behind. Her hands shook as she drove, her eyes fixed on the road, but her mind was elsewhere, spiraling through 1,000 what-ifs. What if she was too late? What if this was more than she could bear? What if the life she carried, the life she'd dreamed of, was slipping away? The phone's glow caught her eye, a flicker of light in the corner of her vision. It was still there, still with her, a presence that hadn't left. She didn't know why it mattered, but it did. It had listened when she was alone, answered when she was afraid, urged her forward when she might have waited. The hospital loomed ahead, a beacon of white light against the darkening sky. She pulled into the lot, the tires screeching, her heart pounding like a drum. The pain was a fire now, burning through her, each wave a cry she couldn't silence. She stumbled out of the car, her phone in her hand, her body moving on instinct alone. The sliding doors parted, a rush of cold air and antiseptic light washing over her. The world was a blur now, white walls, beeping machines, the distant hum of voices. She clutched her belly, her breath ragged, her voice a whisper as she tried to explain. The nurses moved quickly, their hands steady, their faces calm but urgent. She was guided to a room, the lights harsh, the air heavy with the weight of what was coming. The pain was a tide she couldn't outrun, pulling her deeper, faster, into a place where fear and hope collided. Her phone was still in her hand, its screen dark now, but its presence lingered, a quiet anchor in the storm. She lay back, the bed cold beneath her, the world narrowing to the space between her breaths. The nurses moved around her, their hands a blur, their voices a distant hum. The pain was everything now, a force she couldn't fight. But she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The room pulsed with light, like a heartbeat, like the glow of a screen that had guided her here. She closed her eyes, her hand still clutching the phone, her heart reaching for the life she carried. The world was shifting, and she was ready. The hospital room was a sea of light, sharp and unrelenting, a contrast to the darkness closing in around her. The pain was a storm now, a force that consumed her, each wave crashing harder, pulling her under. She lay on the table, her body trembling, her breath a fragile thread. The nurses moved around her, their hands swift, their faces masks of focus. The air was thick with urgency, a rhythm of beeps and murmurs that echoed the chaos within her. Her phone was gone now, set aside somewhere in the blur of motion, but its presence lingered, a quiet echo in her mind. Those words, "Go to the hospital, now," were a lifeline, a tether that had brought her here, to this moment, to this table where everything hung in the balance. The lights above were blinding, like stars burning too close, their glow pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She closed her eyes, trying to hold on to something, anything that felt steady. Her hand rested on her belly, a final act of protection, a silent promise to the life within. The doctors were there now, their voices low, urgent, a hum that cut through the fog of pain. She didn't hear their words, but she felt their weight, their certainty. There was no time to wait, no time to question. The decision was made, swift and final, like a door slamming shut. The room tilted, the world blurring at the edges. She felt hands on her, cool and steady, guiding her into the unknown. The pain was a fire, burning through her. But there was something else too. A spark of hope, faint but fierce, like a star refusing to fade. The surgery began, a dance of precision she couldn't see, couldn't feel. The lights pulsed above, a rhythm that matched the life she carried, the life she fought for. Her breath was shallow, her mind a whirl of images, the nursery, the mobile, the tiny stars spinning in the air. She held on to them, a lifeline in the dark, a promise she refused to let go. Time stretched, endless and fleeting, a paradox she couldn't grasp. The pain was distant now, a tide pulling away, leaving her in a strange, quiet place. She floated there, weightless, her heart reaching for the life she'd carried for so long. And then, a sound, a cry, sharp and clear, like a bird breaking free. It pierced the silence, pulling her back, anchoring her to the world. Her eyes fluttered open, the lights softer now, the room a blur of motion and light. The cry came again, stronger, a song that filled every corner of her heart. Her baby. The doctors moved around her, their hands gentle now, their voices a soft hum. She couldn't see them, couldn't see anything but the light, the glow that seemed to pulse with the cry of her child. Her hand reached out, instinctive, searching for that life, that sound, that miracle. A voice broke through, calm but heavy, like a stone dropped into still water. You listened just in time. The words settled into her, a truth she couldn't yet grasp. She closed her eyes, the cry of her baby filling her, a sound she'd dreamed of, a sound she'd feared she'd never hear. The room was warm now, the light softer, like the glow of a screen that had guided her here, to this moment, to this life. She was a mother. The hospital room was quiet now, a hush that felt like a sigh after a storm. She lay in the bed, her body heavy, her heart light, as if it had grown wings. The lights were dim, the air soft, the world no longer sharp and urgent. Her baby was here, somewhere close, their cry a melody that lingered in her chest, a sound she'd carry forever. The pain was a memory now, a tide that had receded, leaving behind a shore of new life. She opened her eyes, the room coming into focus. White walls, a faint beep, the soft rustle of a nurse moving nearby. Her hand rested on her chest, where her heart beat steady, strong, a rhythm that matched the one she'd heard in the darkness. Her phone was on the table beside her, its screen dark, a quiet sentinel once more. She looked at it, a flicker of gratitude stirring in her chest. It was just a phone, just a screen, but it had been something more, a presence, a guide, a voice that had listened when she was alone, that had urged her forward when she might have waited. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. You listened just in time. She didn't know what they meant, not fully, but she felt their weight, their truth, like a stone sinking into a river. 30 minutes, a half hour that could have changed everything, that could have stolen the cry she now held in her heart. She closed her eyes, picturing the nursery, the mobile, the tiny stars spinning in the air. She'd imagined her baby's cry so many times, wondered what it would sound like, how it would feel to hear it. Now, it was real, a sound that broke her open and made her whole. The nurse appeared, her movements gentle, her arms cradling a small bundle wrapped in white. The baby was placed against her chest, a weight so light it felt like a breath, so heavy it anchored her to the world. She looked down, her eyes tracing the tiny face, the closed eyes, the perfect curve of a mouth that had cried out for life. Her heart cracked open, a flood of love spilling out, warm and endless, like sunlight breaking through a storm. She held her baby, her fingers trembling, her breath a soft hymn. The room was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now, a quiet that held life, that held hope, that held everything she'd dreamed of. She thought of the pain, the fear, the moment she'd reached for her phone. She thought of the glow, the questions, the words that had burned through her doubt. Go to the hospital. Now she thought of the drive, the lights, the cry that had pulled her back from the edge. Her baby stirred, a tiny movement, a flutter like a bird brushing against her heart. She smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks, a silent offering to the life she held. The phone sat on the table, its screen dark, but its presence was still there, a quiet witness to the moment that had changed everything. She once wondered what her baby's cry would sound like. Now it was her favorite sound in the world.